Greetings, everyone, and welcome. It's Sunday once again, which means it's time for another episode of the Captain's Table, this being episode 10 of the second season of the Captain's Table. To recap last week's episode, I had just completed my first full week at my new job, hadn't been fired yet, and was pretty optimistic going into the second week. Well, the second week is complete, still haven't been let go. In fact, my supervisor and, at the very least, some of the leasing staff seem to be pretty pleased with my presence on the property. And so, as I continue my employment, it looks like I'm starting to settle into a nice, stable situation, which is excellent. Makes me absolutely happy right from the get-go that I've finally got myself into a job that I don't necessarily have to worry about walking into work the next day and being told it's not working out, hand over your keys. Granted, that still could be the case, but at this point I'm starting to feel pretty comfortable that it's not going to be the case. Now, that being said, there was still one other employee that they were expecting to start in the maintenance department who still has not started. Now, I was told he was going to start last week, and apparently that was not the case, and so he is starting this week. So, we'll see what happens there. Honestly, personally, I'm not entirely sure the property needs 3 people working maintenance-related jobs. Simultaneously, though, it is kind of nice to have 3 people for a property the size that it is. Especially when you consider that, you know, we all kind of want at least one weekend day off. That being said, my schedule is the same as it was before. It is a Tuesday through Saturday schedule, so a little bit disappointing that I'm not going to have the normal weekend like normal people, at least for now. But at the very least, I'm in a familiar work schedule, and I still have that glorious weekday off to get things done that I need to get done on weekdays. The downside, of course, is that I'm working 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. That basically means leaving my apartment at 6:30 in the morning, except on Saturday, where I can effectively leave at 6:45 and still get there on time. Now, this has kind of thrown me off a bit, because in the past, I've worked a 9 to 6, or an 8 to 5. And waking up at 5 in the morning, 4:45, has allotted me ample time to wake up, watch some YouTube videos, get caught up on those, sit back, play some rounds of World of Warships or whatever game I'm currently fixated on, put together, record, and process a YouTube video, make breakfast, and then head off to work. But because I have to leave for work now at 6:30 in the morning, I'm still waking up at 5 a.m., which means I've only got an hour, maybe an hour and 10, to do all of those things. So I've effectively omitted all of those things at this point, with the exception of playing whatever game I currently have a fix on, and watching YouTube videos or whatever I'm binging on Amazon Prime. For those of you who've been following me on YouTube for a while, may have noticed last week there wasn't a video on Monday, but instead there was a video on Tuesday, and there wasn't a video on Thursday. There were only 3 videos for the week, only 2 World of Warships, and that really does basically fall into the I'm still getting under the adjustment period of coming home, sitting down, and having to either play World of Warships, record a World of Warships game, and you wonderful folks keep sending me these replays, as well as putting it all together and then recording it. But of course, the downside to that is that by the time I get home, all I want to do is have dinner and vegetate and then go to bed because I'm tired. So a little bit of an adjustment period here while I get things figured out. As for the week at work, nothing really notable occurred. I basically spent the last week at work doing a couple of very, very easy turns. They use a very high quality paint there, which means I don't have to paint a whole wall to touch up a small 1 foot section or even a 2 foot section. I don't have to paint the whole wall. I only have to paint that section. That's it. It makes turning the units incredibly quick. A little bit disappointing because I do like the unit turns. It gives me an opportunity to get away from everybody. Nobody asks me what I'm doing, and I can effectively vegetate with some YouTube in the background or some music or whatever. Since they're so quick, I don't get that option anymore. That being said, however, as a result of very quick turns, I have been able to get around, and this is probably part of the reason that my new supervisor is impressed with me, and the office staff is happy that I'm there, is that I've been able to get around and do a lot of little minor things. Things that kind of ultimately a lot of places put on the back burner simply because they don't have the people to do it and other priorities keep popping up. But I was able to get in and do it because supervisor's there to deal with the priority stuff. I don't need to turn anything. At least that's... I have noticed that anything needs to be turned. And I'm available. I'm there during that time period. So I basically spent the last week at work effectively changing a lot of light bulbs. A lot of light bulbs. There's a lot of ladder work, a lot of up and down stuff. But I got it done. And the place, in my opinion, looks a little bit better as a result of being brightly lit. Will the office manager notice? Probably. Will my supervisor pay attention? Well, he knows that I did it. Will the residents notice? Not likely. Not at all. But that's really just because a lot of residents, unless they work in the industry, don't notice. But of course, the sad thing for this week is that my annual anime convention that I've worked for the last several years with all of my good friends is going on this weekend. And because I started my new job, and because of the schedule, and because of the lack of other people to fill in, I couldn't take the time off. And even if I could take the time off, I couldn't afford to take the time off. Because of my schedule, it basically would mean missing a minimum of 1 day. That's Saturday. Of course, that's a day I can't take off because I'm the only one there on Saturday to do the Saturday stuff. That's mostly cleaning and cleaning out the trash rooms and dealing with the recycling. So, you know, even if I could take that day off, I still really couldn't take that day off because stuff just wouldn't get done. Now, if the other guy who is supposedly going to work a Sunday through Thursday schedule was available, then yeah, maybe I could take a Saturday off because then, you know, not both of those weekend days would be missed for cleaning and servicing and all of that. But he hasn't started yet. So, again, I couldn't take the time off. But going into the I can't afford to take the time off, I'm still waiting on my unemployment. Although I think I finally have made some headway with them, dealing with a little bit of back and forth associated with this unemployment. However, I haven't actually yet been paid for it.
Over here.
Disappointing still need that money. The money would be nice. Additionally, taking those 2 days off as unpaid days off equates to something like $380 of gross pay. Take-home wise, it's still close to $300 for me, and I really cannot afford to lose $300 in my first or any subsequent paycheck, at least for the foreseeable 6 or 7 months. So, I'm a bit disappointed that I wasn't able to go and enjoy the convention this year.
Thanks.
On the other hand, I'm getting paid a lot of money, and, as it turns out, I have a little bit of overtime opportunity coming to me tomorrow morning. So even more money coming to me. And that makes me happy. And that puts me in a financially secure position going forward, considering I've got to look for a new apartment. And speaking of apartments, I did have one incident recently that, well, let's just say it's lucky that I don't particularly like being overly aggressive when it comes to dealing with certain situations. Now, Friday night, I went to bed at my usual time in order to wake up as early as I do. About an hour and a half after going to bed, I got woken up to the sound of, well, flexing metal and something scraping across the concrete. And the position that my bed is situated allows me to look out of my bedroom window directly onto the patio, which unfortunately I share with some other people because it is on the ground floor. And I looked through my blinds, and I could see 2 people dragging my barbecue grill out from its position, tucked nicely away near my bedroom window. 2 people.
Glad to hear it. We've got explosives ready
What
to
to me looked like were trying to steal a $400 barbecue grill.
my science officer to make that happen.
I was not having that. I very quickly woke up, put on some pajama bottoms, grabbed my pistol, and ran to my sliding door and opened that sucker up. But I didn't draw my weapon. I kept it down by my side. And I opened up the door and I turned on the light and I looked right at the 2 people who were there. At this point, however, they had stopped moving my grill, had removed its cover, and one of them was standing on top of it, trying to reach up to the balcony, the apartment above me. And so I asked what the hell they were doing. And the guy on the grill told me that he lived in the apartment above me, he locked himself out of his apartment, which, honestly, I don't entirely know how he managed to do that, and was trying to gain access to it by using my barbecue grill as a personal step stool. I don't know how to deal with that situation. I can't even begin to surmise what to do at this situation. Do I call the cops? Do I hold them at gunpoint? Do I let them continue? I mean, what the fuck do I do? It's the most unusual and absolutely bizarre situation, but what I do know is that they touched my property and somewhat damaged it in order to achieve their goals. And while I let them be and let them continue and went back to bed because I was exhausted, I do know that come Monday morning I will be reporting and filing a formal complaint with my apartment manager. Now, whether they actually do anything about it, is an entirely different question. Of course, it doesn't really matter to me. I'm going to make sure to leave a very scathing review when I leave this apartment building, simply because of all of the other associated issues. Going forward into the next week, as I mentioned, I had an opportunity for a little bit of overtime. Now, if you're watching this video on the day that it's published, technically I'm doing the overtime today, which at the time of recording this video would technically be tomorrow. It's only a couple of hours, but as it turns out, the person who was here before me at work, months before me, supposedly he was on his way out, and he just said he did a bunch of things that he didn't actually do. And so now that I'm there, it's resulted in me doing a lot of associated scramble work in order to get things fixed or prepped before people move into their very expensive units. And unfortunately, that ended up being the case this week, as on Saturday somebody moved into a very high-priced unit that was supposedly ready, wasn't actually ready. So I get to go in for a couple of hours and fix that. Shouldn't be too difficult though. 2 hours of overtime, nice amount of money, and then I can go back to my weekend. I get to wake up early, I don't have to be in there at 7 in the morning, thank God. And simultaneously I don't plan on staying past noon, which means I can go have lunch and then promptly bugger off back home and do the things I need to do. And finally, in this week's episode of The Captain's Table, if you've been paying attention to what's been going on the screen, you're probably wondering what the hell game I'm playing and why the hell does it look an awful lot like Star Trek. Well, I recently decided, after kind of binge watching some YouTube videos on Star Trek lore, that I wanted to get back in and play some Star Trek Online, because it's been a long time since I've played that game. And they've changed a whole shit ton of things in Star Trek Online. All of my old characters that I had made completely irrelevant, and not just irrelevant, but completely outclassed. To give you an idea, it used to be the maximum level you could achieve was 50, and the maximum item rank you could get was rank 11, assuming you got a very rare drop and spent a lot of time and effort crafting that item. Well, now they have rank 12 items that are better in every way, and you can reach rank 60 plus. You have all sorts of other additional skills. Again, effectively rendering every previous character completely obsolete. And as a result of that, plus a lot of new ships and shiny things to play with, I have been spending an inordinate amount of time simply just playing that game and kind of enjoying it, because it is reasonably relaxing, a little bit more so than World of Warships, and because I've kind of been on a Star Trek fix. Anyway, that's it for this week's episode of The Captain's Table. Let me know in the comments down below what you think, and you know, what you think I should do about dealing with a situation like the one I had on Friday night with my upstairs neighbor using my barbecue grill as a step stool. I'm sure you'll have plenty of comments related to that, including several explicits. Expletives. And, as always, I'll see you guys next time. This is Captain Rye, signing off.